All right, we are live for the first podcast. We are
D
this
Cat,
is
what's up?
the inaugural. This is the first one. So we're thinking about
Hopefully,
calling this
hopefully not. Hopefully
respect.
not the last. Hopefully not the last one.
Hopefully, it's,
Hopefully not
hopefully
the
we get
last
us
one.
more than just a couple people viewing. So first podcast. This is Matthew Taylor. You got Danny Catullo. This is Respect the Line. And we're here to talk a bunch of things. We're here to talk bocce. We're here to talk business. We're here to give you our opinions, unfiltered. And one thing before we started, we both wanted to mention was we really respect, as we call ourselves Respect the Line, we really respect the history of this game. Not only the players, but those that have helped move the game forward from the Bocce Bros to BBN to ABC to the many other players that have made this game grow to where it is today. But Matt, how do you feel like that we can be able to
With that
help?
being said,
Yeah.
yeah, real quick though. With that being said, I know this might be an unpopular opinion, but this is why we're here. I must and have to kind of give Eric Zalesnak a little bit of credit for um, how some of the game has grown. He is not well liked, obviously. He's got a lot of enemies. He's got some friends. He's pissed some people off, but he definitely like took some steps into making it what it is. I mean, we use the word major because of him, right? I don't know if anybody's really arguing that with me. Maybe somebody, but we use the word major, and it's
So
funny because even the older fellas do it.
let's just
And the
dive.
respect the line name.
Let's just dive right into that, though. I just want to dive right into that
Okay.
topic because
Okay.
I
Yeah.
love it.
Cool.
So I believe also that Eric has done a lot of positive things for the game. So before I got here, I've been playing. You've been playing competitively for about 5 years, right? Give or take,
Yeah.
four or
About
five
four or
years,
5 years.
and I'm
Yeah.
2 to 3, so I'm a little bit behind you. And before me, there was NABA, right, North American Bocce Association, which started by Dante, and then there was the Undergrad, which was started by
The
Eric, and
what?
he's
NABA. Oh, NABA. Yeah,
NABA,
we don't
yeah.
even. I haven't been on that in a long
No,
time. Yeah.
no one's been on that, in part because
Rest in peace to Betty.
myself, in part because myself and others, really were looking for an alternative to be able to find great, engaging bocce content. And so also believe that Eric has done a lot for us when it comes to content wise, sort of driving the conversation forward and creating a lot of opinions and allowing people to be able to post stuff. Like you said, love or hate him. He's definitely engaging.
Yes,
But that
he
major
has
that
to get
major
his
word,
respect in that sense. Yeah.
I I agree. I agree. That major word though is interesting to me. So there are a lot of people that maybe don't respect Eric, but those same people will use that name major to discuss Carmstrong and the other three tournaments. And when I see this post by the Bocce Bros actually today, which I freaking loved, because they got a bunch of history from Bernie, from Brian Polance, Joe Cassis, and others. We got all the historical major winners actually posted for the first time that we could be able to see. And I was just chuckling. I'm like, it's all these major winners, major quote unquote,
Yeah.
because of what Eric said. So one, want to get your
I'd
opinion
like to
on
go. I'd like to revisit that list if we could, Danny, at some point.
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to hear that list because I didn't see that post. Yeah.
yeah. So that we have basically the historical winners. There's some missing, of course, because they just didn't have names or records of them. But for the most part, we have most
Right.
of them. We have all these history of the winners of the majors, and I just want to get your opinion, Taylor, on what do you think about the majors? Do you think those are the right four? And also, what do you think about calling them majors? Is that the name that you would call them? Is it really just four? Or are they just like the bigger bocce tournaments?
I mean, it's interesting because even like 2 years ago, we did that Ryder Cup, right? Where'd you get the Ryder Cup name from? You got it from golf, right? Where do you get the major name from? You got it from golf. It kind of makes sense because golf has a million tournaments every season. That's also why Eric started using the bocce season moniker, right? So basically, after MVR, he feels like that's the end, you know, of the season, even though there's some awesome tournaments coming up. In my personal opinion, I don't think those are the only four majors. I mean, this year alone, JAC, let me tell you something. JAC, okay, that tournament, you want to talk about like a grind. You're out in the heat all day. Everybody's drinking, generally, except for me, although I got sucked into it this year for sure. I mean, I was hammered out at the smoke shop with Billy Batters and us playing spades. I didn't know what was going on Saturday afternoon. And it's hot, dude. Like I mean, it's a tough tournament. Like a tough tournament. What's it called? AJ D'Annunzio's kids beat the brakes off us late Saturday. I mean, it's like those backboards are tough. Nobody plays those courts but those guys out there. It's very different. It's essentially like going to Detroit. Those courts are 90 feet long. Like the only you don't realize how hard it is to roll and shoot until you're actually there. I digress.
Yep.
MVR is another one. Like, it's hard for me, like, because MVR is a bracketed tournament. So, like, you can cherry pick a bracket. Their brackets were Tuesday through Friday. Like, each bracket isn't created equal, right?
You cannot tell me that Tuesday's bracket was even as close to as competitive as Thursdays or Fridays.
Right. So you can make it to a Saturday there. I wouldn't say relatively easy, but you only had to win. Like, we only had to win. Was it 2 games or 3 games to make it in the winners? We just needed to win 2 games to make it to the losers, right? I'm pretty sure how that worked this past weekend. Again, though, like, we had to play a couple tough teams, like really good teams. So, it was hard for us, but I seen some other people didn't. Again, though, once Saturday came, like, you still had to beat good teams. It was still a grind. Even us, we got 7th, 8th. We had to play ABV, Pino and them guys, the Wycliffe champions, and we had to play who the hell was it? Frank, Pete, Molisani 4, like those guys, Ronnie Cap in the losers bracket. So it's still tough, but there's other tournaments. Listen, this Fall Classic coming up in what? Is it 3 weeks now or 4 weeks?
Yep, 3 weeks.
I played in that last year. That tournament was unreal. The talent in there is unreal.
It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
What's he taking? 70 teams this year?
Yeah, we're gonna see some brackets with like 8 or 10 teams that could win it.
Like yes, bracket. I mean it's insane, dude. Last year I remember it being like loaded. I go, this is harder to win than MVR is. Like, no disrespect to MVR, tough. Those courts aren't easy. Those backboards are the toughest backboards in bocce. Not even close. From court to court. I mean, it's ridiculous. But yeah, Molisani is tough, man. It's like playing at the Masters, in my opinion. So, like, I don't necessarily agree with it. I think any tournament that has 50 teams or more is considered a major win. I know that, in the BU Cup, I'm pretty sure that Rocco, and this is a good, like, measuring stick, I guess. Rocco, if you win either Rome, Wycliffe, MVR, or Molisani, you got, like, the most points you can get, right? I'm pretty sure. JC was not graded as high points-wise if you won that as some of the other ones were. I would disagree with that. I would think that team that tournament had 50 or more teams should have been graded just as equally. So that's kind of my stance on it. Again, I could throw out some other tournaments there, dude. Like, and one of my best friends is Sean New, Jimmy, those guys. Those guys won the NEO winter tournament, not last year, the year before. You want to talk about a loaded bracket? That was loaded too. That tournament was absolutely loaded. I mean, and there was 50 there. I think there was over 50 teams in that one. Am I correct?
Yeah. I would think like almost all these tournaments though. Now.
Yeah.
Like we have 16 for this high stakes at Lorenzino's. And there's 15 teams signed up. And if any of those 15 teams won, maybe there's a couple
you wouldn't
that
be shocked.
A surprise. You wouldn't be shocked.
You wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, exactly. That's something we could talk about later.
Yeah. It's just like
there's something we could talk about later.
It's super deep. So like a couple things on the majors. I would think that I like the idea of picking what the top 4 tournaments are. And I think that back when Eric played years ago, I think that there were only 4 tournaments that were really big. I just think that bocce has changed. There is no longer the off season. Good, bad, or otherwise, there's not. We're seeing even like the good or great players now getting FOMO or worried like if they don't play, their teams may leave them for somebody else that's playing all year round and playing for competitively for money and for
Hmm.
wins. So I just don't think that the bocce season is completely the same. And then also like not all these tournaments are created equally, and even though um, even though there are tournaments with brackets like NVR, there's also tournaments that are unbracketed, and you can still get an easy draw. You could still get the right draw at the right
You
time,
could. That is
and you
true.
can get the right loss at the right time. Or to your point, like NEO Winter Classic, you could like go through a freaking gauntlet where it's like, oh my gosh, next thing we know, we're playing against three different teams that have at least one or two major winners, and then you have to be able to
Right.
go through those. So it's just hard to win. It's just hard to win in general. But
Yeah.
but it is fun. It is fun, for us in the social media in the media game to be able to have these four tournaments as like the big ones.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that what were the biggest payouts in bocce this year? Would we have that information? I mean, what would be the to me that would also be a decent measuring stick is what's first place? How much can you win in a tournament? What is it? Now,
Yeah,
go
yeah. I think
ahead.
these four are pretty probably the biggest. But you have to go through way more games to be able to get there. Whereas like
Right.
some of these high stakes are relatively much bigger because you're able to make a lot more and have to win much less games. So like your
Right.
money per win is much less. But also to our earlier point was you're definitely going through a gauntlet to have to be able to get there. So like winning
Yeah.
the earlier Lorenzino's classic, the high stakes, the four person that Jimmy and Sean New and MHP won, earlier this year, and Louis won. They
Right.
they won a fair amount of money, but man, they had to go through a gauntlet. And I'm sure they're thanking you for taking down Jose and knocking him out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That was cool. That was cute. Yeah, we had to play Jose three times that tournament, twice on that Sunday. Um, Beat them twice, and then listen. I mean, I can't discredit those guys at all. They beat the crap out of us after we played Jose. I just think that we were so high from that victory. It was like our one of our first three or four tournaments we had played together. We were so excited to beat them. Like Jose was like on my bucket list of guys to beat, which we did twice in one tournament.
Sure.
Then we go and
Should have beat him
you
three
sleep on
times.
guys like
Should
yeah,
have beat him three.
right, yeah,
Should have beat him three
we
times.
blew a we blew a 13
Oh,
to
I
like
know.
5 lead, right? 13-6 lead. Yeah,
I
it
was
was
out of town. I'm talking smack on the live broadcast for you guys. For you guys.
yeah. Yeah.
Talking smack,
Yeah.
and you guys didn't want to finish the job for me because
No,
I was rooting pretty
it was
hard. I had a
pretty
couple
tilting, dude.
Venus. Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty tilting. We lost that game. I mean, we had them, but their team they're obviously great players, especially on synthetic. Um, but listen, we could this is something we could talk about later. But that IMBS squad, like, if you don't show up to play them, you're going to get wrecked. Like, period. They're that's one team you can always plug in every tournament. They have a chance to win. They are a contender. It's not. I mean, it's 100%
They're an easy
every
team to
time.
bet on. I'll tell you that much.
Yes.
I got one more thing I
Yes.
want to talk about, and then I want to go through a little bit of a recap of
Okay.
NVR and
Also,
maybe
real
the
quick,
last
let's
couple
let's
of
let's
tournaments.
close. Let's wrap
Go
a
ahead.
bow on. Let's wrap a bow on the Eric thing. Eric, this is something that Eric also wanted to do, a podcast. Obviously, like you and I talked, I think this makes the most sense. Respect the Line was a name that Eric and I had come up with some names we thought about months ago. This was one of them. I really liked it. I'm using it. We are using it. I really like it. So I figured might as well try it. So hopefully people like the name.
Yeah, I love it. I love the name. All right, so one of the things I want to talk about just quickly before we get into the MVR thing was sort of that energy that's needed to beat somebody that's great. So we had talked about the young guys, Anthony D'Annunzio and his boys. Uh,
Mhm.
Anthony, Dante, and all those guys out there, those young guys from Cleveland that beat you. You just talked about it playing against Jose. I could use an example of myself when I beat at Jerry's World. I beat Anthony Capogreco and Matt Estes and Joe Zazar and
I
Frank
saw that
Castillo.
game. I watched that game.
Yeah.
I watched every ball thrown in that game. Very
So
impressive. I was shocked that they lost.
yeah, they were. That was actually the first game that you could bet on. That was the first tournament that
Re-
you could bet on bocce. Yep, first tournament.
When
And
was that? Was
so
that this wasn't that wasn't this year? It was last year,
it's
right?
two. Yeah, it's 2 years ago. Yep.
2 years ago.
And
Okay.
yeah, and you could bet on bocce for the first time, and they were heavily the bocce favorite, sort of an all-star team.
For
And
that
I
tournament, yeah.
remember I was throwing balls at St. Anthony's, just practicing. I had just got back from work, and I was playing with Chris Lovell. I was playing with Bo Wetzel. I was playing with Tim Wilson. We were just like throwing balls around, having fun. Anthony Del Torrio was
Mhm.
there, and I was like, I really want to draw a cap. Like I just like really wanted to draw him. And they texted us the draw like 5 minutes later, and we drew him. And I'm just like, I need to get this monkey off my back. I want to beat him. I want to beat those guys. And it was nothing but respect. But I want to talk about this, the opportunity to play someone that is on paper much better than you, on paper. And so we can all say like, oh, anyone can lose at any certain time, and four ball, you only have one ball. I get it, I get it, I get it. But I respect
Uh-huh.
Cap. I think he's freaking great. I think Joe Zazar is fucking great. I think Frank Tassilo is fucking great. Matt S is fucking great. I want to beat those guys. And I'm playing with my brothers, and I'm playing with Alessio, and like I want to take us and be the better team. And so, we end up getting it done that day. And you have to have the
Yeah.
right breaks. You have to make the shots. We did. We beat them by 1 point. But the next game, I remember in particular, and I think my brothers would even say this, it was really difficult for my brothers to get up for it.
Yeah.
So, like, we had
Yep.
just slayed an entire big dragon. So, emotionally and a little bit physically, we were kind of drained. And so, like, I was trying to get up to the next pace for the next game, but it was really difficult for our entire team to. And so, like, I think even Matt Estes like said something like, "You guys, busted your nut against us. You guys couldn't.
Yeah.
After that, you guys couldn't do
I
anything."
can see him saying
And
that. Yeah, I can see him
yeah,
saying that.
and I remember the first tournament that you guys had played together, you had lost at Jerry's World to those same young guys who beat you, and then they couldn't win more than they won the next game, maybe
You want
the
to know a
next one.
funny, real quick with that funny part
Yeah.
about that? I don't know if many people know this story. You're right. That was the first time that betting had taken place. I'm pretty sure we had lost that first game against those kids, right? And I'm sitting at the bar. Rocco comes up. He starts giving me a hard time. I said, Rocco, give me 7-1. We win the right. We went for $50. We win the tournament. Sure enough, we did. Sure enough, we rattled off like 9 in a row, won the tournament. First time we ever played together, we won the thing. It was unbelievable. So on top of winning the betting pool, because I obviously bet on myself, I got that little bit of extra side action from him. But yeah, it was it's funny you mentioned that because now I remember that tournament. It was great.
It took me down. It took me down along the way. It took me down along the way.
Yeah,
You wore me
yeah,
out hitting the ball. So
yeah.
that team, and now we just talked about your team. So like Bernie Colangelo actually said the same thing when he played against Nico Fox in their singles tournament. I don't know if they call it the Freddie Cup. I may be totally off, maybe something different. But they had a big singles tournament at Tokelana, and he said, I played against Nico and I beat him, but it took so much out of me that the next game it was like very hard for me to get up. And so I'm just
Right.
interested if you felt the same way, and like going after you beat, what were they, the Black Bulls, and then going in and playing in the next game, were you a little bit worn out, or was it like, oh, you were so
No,
high on
I
yourselves, or
actually,
like,
I actually played pretty good in that game. I feel like everybody else just kind of like I don't want to say they didn't play good. IMBS was playing good to begin with. They were doing really well, right? Um, so I can't take anything away from them. But I remember us just we started playing and it was like we had there's nothing we could do. it was just one of them games where like we were just pressing. We weren't making the extra points we were supposed to make. We weren't beating the 3-foot points we usually beat. We were just done. Like we weren't getting the breaks. I mean, and then we got our asses kicked. I mean, that's what happened. We got our asses kicked. I mean,
it's so funny because like you're concentrating when you're playing the Bulls. You're just like, so that's Jose, Pat Pezzin was on the team. Who else? Anthony LaBarbera and Leo.
Yes. Let me tell you. Let me tell you something. When you're playing, if you played against Jose before or any four-mans or two-mans? Okay. So when you're playing those guys, you know how like when you're anticipating someone's shot or their next roll, you're waiting down the end of the court, you have your ball in your hand still. Every ball is a sweat when you're going up against guys that can make a play at any point, right? So every ball that Pat, somewhat Pat, Jose, LaBarbera, and Leo made or rolled or hit was a sweat. It's like, oh, these guys can stick. They can beat 6-inch points. So every time they would roll a ball or shoot a ball, it's a sweat. So every frame was a sweat. We just were constantly like, I mean, it was nonstop adrenaline every frame just to beat those guys. And it was tough. We were shocked. I mean, honestly, after that tournament, we were obviously proud of ourselves. It sucked we lost, but beating them was an accomplishment for us. So we kind of took that with, so we took some positives out of that tournament for sure.
So for
but
me,
it's a sweat, man.
It's much easier. I'd prefer to play in a one-game little silo. I'd prefer to play against you and like BSB. Why? Because I know I'm going to be up for it. I know that there's going to be a big crowd, and it's so much easier for me to lock in, and I'm thinking about every single point. And I never think we're down. I never think we're out of it. But like I'm just so locked in and getting that next point, winning that frame, moving on, versus someone where I'm not necessarily, especially that next game. It's a really difficult to be able to sort of lock in and get the next one. And not that you don't respect IMBS, because you had just said that one too. It'd be interesting to get IMBS on to say like, so who are they rooting for? Because everyone does. So you're rooting for someone to come through, to come face you. Like, do you want BSB to win? Because you feel like they've already beat you before, so they know they could beat you again. Or are they rooting for Jose to beat you so they could be the ones that slay the dragon, if you will? I'd be interested to get their
that's
perspective.
A good question. I think that's a nice topic for next week. We get one of them guys or two guys on the podcast next week. We can get that going. I think that'd be a good, interesting comment, interesting question.
Mark that one down, folks. All right, so let's.
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned it too. It's funny. You played us in Wycliffe, right? First game. You gave us the best game we had up until we played Molisani, and that crazy ending to that game. And we actually played pretty well. And then I always do this. If a team beats us, I'm curious to see how they end up doing later on. You guys were starting to you won some games, but you were struggling against teams that I don't want to say lesser, is not as good as us, but at least we're not playing as good as us or capable of playing as good as us. You guys struggled a little bit with some of those teams. So how is that for you? And how does it feel for you to play us, knowing you had us beat, you didn't beat us? How do you get up for the next game? How does that happen?
So great question. So we played a game first. We played against Rocky DeLisio, Jack Durkin, Ray Carlston, and Gabe. And this is not my words. This is Rock DeLisio's words. We played the perfect game against them. I mean, we beat them bad, and it wasn't what they could do. We wanted to see you next, and so we saw you were next. Some people don't look at the schedule. I get why you talk about it. You don't want to look at the schedule. I do. I want to see who I'm playing against. I look forward to that game. I knew that it was, especially because it was the second game and you had the bye, that there would be people there. I love being in front of that crowd, and look, I wanted that game. So we came and we got it the first game, and then we got to the second game, and I mean, for us, it was a bit of a heartbreaker. we had it. We didn't finish the job. There was obviously there's always luck involved, but like we didn't beat the point that we needed to beat, and Cap got a little lucky on the last ball, and we lost the game. And throughout the game there was plenty of bad beats both ways, and whatever it was 1 point. And I mean, I get pissed. I'm a fairly nice guy off the court, but I'm when I'm on the court, I want to fucking kill you. Like, I want to slit throats. I want to win the fucking game.
Yeah.
I'm there to win the game. And I mean, I was super, super, super frustrated. And I have to tell you, a couple people like kind of grabbed me after. And, one thing that they talked about with me, one of them was Braden Micheletti. And another was, Michael Paisano. And those are pretty familiar faces for me. They kind of talked to me after.
Sure.
And what Braden said was, you don't see it now, but that's a game you needed. That's a game you needed. And it might not be for this tournament. It might be for the next tournament, but that's a game you needed. You needed to show out during that game. You needed to show that you could beat those guys. Everyone saw it. And I know you want to kick the ball through the fucking backboard right now and go nuts, but like, go smoke a cigar, go have a drink, and go relax. And it was really difficult to go into the next games. And we had some beatable teams, as we would call them, right? Teams that we know that could beat us, but teams that we should beat on paper. And it was a lot more difficult to get up for those games. And so we were a little struggling at first. And it took like a little bit of like those dumb idiosyncrasy things that happen in the game, those things that you make yourself get pissed off, for us to kind of make the run that we did. And we get all the way to about the last game on Saturday, which has been our stopping point lately. And we played against Adelio's. We played against Marco Orlando and Jason Melaragno, and against Sergio DeFranco. And
Richie.
We were up 7-0, and we didn't win the game. So we had our chances that game.
No, if you guys were up 7-0, I don't think I knew that.
Yep, but we didn't win the game.
Yeah.
And so to your point, we're just talking to get me and my run and my teams, but to your point, those games in the middle were much, much tougher for me personally.
Yeah.
The bookends, playing against Rock Delisio, playing against you guys, playing against Sergio, Richie, Marco, Jason. Yeah. I'm freaking up for those ones. Playing against
for sure.
Playing against, people that I like, my friends, the people that on paper I feel like we're even against. It's just a little bit harder for me to get up for.
Right, for sure. Listen, I want to continue our discussion, but I also, I feel it's appropriate, since MVR was last week, to give a big congratulations to Lorenzinos minus Chiavetti. They added Mike Robertson, right?
Oh,
he was
tough.
lead hitting. And they won that thing. Congrats to those guys, dude. Matt Estes, he's like the Facebook troll, right? He's guy loves to stir shit. He's been playing awesome this year. He got that change in his stance, because his knees are bad. Whatever he did has worked. I mean, he's been rolling his ass off. And I'm sure down the line, even probably sooner, maybe next week, it could be some topics. I know people don't like rankings. Estes hates rankings. We're going to have to do some legit rankings here on some players, and we're going to. He's right up there. I mean, Matt actually, JAC, I feel like, I remember I played him at JAC. I played him at Lorenzino's a few times. And I don't say this often. Matt Estes played better than me a couple times this year by a lot, especially at Lorenzino's. I mean, he owns that court, dude. They've won he's won 3 times there. Lorenzino's has, I guess. Him, Gianni, Bobby. I mean, dude, they showed out at MVR, and they did a hell of a job.
One of my favorite things about Matt is that, the first night he did not play great. I don't even know if you would say that he played good. No, I mean, Bobby, I did a video. I've been doing these videos on the Bocce Underground, and I did a video of them making it, because I was trying to do like videos of the certain teams that have made it. And I text them and I said, listen, I'm trying to do a highlight video and I can't put you in. I just do Bobby Gentile bringing out 4 balls after they switched him to lead pointer. And I mean, it was just.
Oh, they had switched. They had switched to lead pointer.
It switched. Yeah, Matt had started out lead
Really?
pointer.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Damn,
Oh,
Matt.
yeah.
See, I'm giving you all this love.
I know.
I'm giving you all this love. I'm getting the bad news about Saturday. It's unbelievable, dude.
No,
It's unbelievable.
But that's what I love about Matt was he shakes it off. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Hit me up. And so, finding that right team, and we'll talk a lot during these podcasts about the right team that you need to have. Finding the right team for Matt, playing with Gianni, playing with Bobby, especially. Dante wasn't there, but even Mike Robb is like someone he's played with since he was a kid, one of his good friends. Is, for him, it was just shake it off onto the next game, shake it off onto the next day. And that's someone that not only just did that, but his role at the end, if he does not freaking beat the ball at the Gianni misses, if he does not beat that ball and put it on the pill, we might not be talking about Lorenzino's.
Yeah, we might be talking about CPF winning 3 in a row, right?
Like we're talking
3 in a row.
Tony.
That's another topic. That's the craziest thing, bro. Listen, we're talking about, Lorenzino's winning it. How about the fact CPF, Federico, if you were ask him right now, Federico, Joe, and those guys, if they had a good year, they would look at me and go, "Are you an idiot? We suck," right? Yet he was literally he was points away from winning 3 MVR tournaments in a row. Inches, right? 3 in a row.
Inches.
I can't even win 1 tournament. This guy was going to win 3 MVR tournaments in a row. It's unbelievable. I mean, they played great. For some reason, they have some comfortability there. And they just, dude. I mean, they're just good. They're just good there. I can't. It's wild. But congrats to them too. I know that Chris Federico is one of the guys. He'll text me if we have a good run. He'll say, "Hey, great run. I know you're just not what you wanted." And I'm like, "F you, dude. We didn't win. We suck." Other people are like, "Well, I'd love to be in your second place too." It's like, yeah, but like, how many times am I going to get to the championship and lose? In my opinion, we're not winners. We just suck. Okay, so. But for him to do that, and him and Tony and Joe have stuck together all year, and they haven't played their best, right? That can get very frustrating. And here they are. They show up at MVR, still confident in each other, good teammates, and they find a way to get it done. It's like, it's wild. Kudos to them.
Yeah, they figure it out how to pick each other up, and I mean, man, I like after the first game. They pretty much smoked him the first game. The big thing for Lorenzino's was that only works in 3-game series, by the way. And so it only works for the losers in a championship. Is that coming back and showing face in that first game matters for the losers. And so they did. They got their 5-6 points at the end. They started showing life. And they used that to go into the second game to say, like, you're not going to just blow us out. You're not going to have this big lead to start up against us. Because, sitting and waiting just sucks as a winner. You can attest to that.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yes. Yeah, it happened to us in Rome. Yeah, it's miserable. Yeah. I mean, but congratulations to both those teams. Mike Robertson, too. I mean, great win. Gianni, great win. Congratulations to him. He just had a baby, right? So he had a lot of things going on. I think he wasn't at Wycliffe. I did see him in Detroit, so he did come out for Detroit. I think that was his first tournament back since they had the kid. And then he shows up to MVR, they win. I mean, unbelievable.
Good for him, I guess.
So congrats to them.
It's just to be able to show up and just win. Congratulations.
Yeah, right.
No, congratulations to Lorenzino's. They all did great. Good for them. And then also CPF as well. And then third place was Delio's, which came into the day as a loser and had to just win a freak ton of games to be able to get to third place. Yeah. And just a pretty impressive
Yeah, we
showing.
beat them on Thursday. And then they made a run. Yep. Good run for them too.
It's interesting. You guys beat them pretty bad the first time you played them, and Cap wasn't at his best. I think it was 4 or 5 misses that he had, especially towards the beginning, of course, which, you got to make the hits at the end. But just to show you how much rolling is important, and you guys put a hurting on him.
Yeah. Even with Cap, Cap will tell you he played good. I could see him now if he's listening. If he was listening to this, he's going to turn his head like this and look at me like, "Are you serious?" Yes, Cap, you missed 4 balls, but it's okay. Like it's fine, dude. I mean,
You're
Cap's a
allowed to.
demon on the
You're
court.
allowed to once every
Yeah,
10 games, 20
yes,
games.
he
Yeah.
is. Cap's a demon. I mean, he's great. I mean, in two championship games this year, actually three that I remember, he didn't miss a single ball. I mean, the guy's a player. It is what it is. You can love him or hate him. The kid shoots the ball. That's what he does. He does his job. I mean, that's what he essentially gets paid to do. Shoot your ball. He does. But yeah, I think that's a good topic too to discuss. I mean, I don't know what else you have going on because you mentioned the rolling, right? Let me ask you a question, Danny. Uh, What do you think the two biggest pieces you need to win a tournament? What are they? The two biggest things you have to do well to win a tournament.
So I'll call it roll well. And if I had to actually put like even a more definitive tournament, I think your lead roller has to roll well. I think it's super important to bring out the best hitter on the other team and to be able to have that person that could be able to beat balls. And then two, I think there needs to be somebody else on your team that is playing lights out. There needs to be like that one person that's playing at that superhero level that you could be able to rely on. That everyone's like, okay, if they have their ball back, whether it be the first hitter, second hitter, third roller, whatever, that other person. I think those two are probably the most important things to be able to win it.
Right. I like those. A lot of people that I talk to tells me how easy rolling is. Dude, it's so easy. Your job is so easy. It's rolling is so easy, right? I hear it from a lot of people. Jimmy's one of the biggest guys that says that. And to an extent, I guess he's probably right. I mean, you know, there's no pressure. You roll the ball and you roll the ball. But like when you look and you watch people play, I mean, how good are people at rolling the ball as close as they can to the Pauline on a consistent basis? Can you name a lot of people that do it? And I mean consistently, game in, game out, tournament in, tournament out. Like you said, getting that first ball out is crucial. I personally like playing the one spot. I used to love the two spot, but then playing with the team I played with, it just fit. I've had the Pauline all year. I know I'm talking about myself because that's what we're doing, but I like having the Pauline. I feel like I'm pretty good at it. I would agree that not only lead rolling is important. If you have a team that all 4 guys can roll, I don't care how many balls you hit, you're going to be tough to beat. That's number one. You have to have a team that can roll. Um, the second thing, in my opinion, is game calling. Um, if you can't call a correct game, do the correct shot, you're more than likely going to cost yourself points. You're not going to put yourselves in position to score many points.
So I
Game
want to
calling to me is second important in
so
my
I
opinion.
want to stop right there, and I'm going to definitely agree with you because I first of all I believe this game is very it's not really a physical game. So like the talent like the physical nature of this game is pretty
Who are
low
you
there.
calling? I sweat
So
after every game, bro.
this
I'm sweating after every game, man. What are you talking about? Physical
we're not winning
shit. Go
we're
ahead.
not winning many physical tests. But I do believe that the mental aspect of the game, is extremely important, right? And then there's also some luck that's
Yeah.
involved as well. And then there's this hand-eye coordination thing that's going on. But the game calling, the strategy, and especially knowing, I say this all the time, knowing who your alpha is and who your A2 is. Because every team really needs an alpha and an A2, A3 to a lesser extent, and then there has to be a beta. Like it just has to work. You can't have 4 alphas. You can't have 4 people calling the game. It just does not work. So you have
Yeah.
to be able to have the call the game. So that's where team chemistry comes into play. And then you also have to, and this is what I'll give Cap a lot of kudos to him because Cap not only watches the game, the courts, but he watches how everybody plays. So he's thinking about your ball, Stewie's ball, Dante's ball, but he's also thinking about my ball, Del Torio's ball, Corey's ball, Nelly's ball. He's thinking about like, what are our strengths? What are our weaknesses?
Yes.
What should we be bringing
Yes.
up? And so
Yes.
that sort of thought process to be not only one, but potentially two balls away. And one of the reasons why I didn't bring it up to win a championship, if you will, is because I don't think you can get to a championship if you don't have great game calling. It just does not happen by sheer playing talent. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And or luck. You can't have just those two. You literally have to know what the play is at the right time, or else you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble.
Yeah, you know what? I'll make this in simple form. So some people that will probably watch this that maybe don't play bocce a lot, if we're making it make sense. Okay, so let's say you have the Pauline, almost full court, 3/4 court. The ball that's in is in front of the Pauline about a foot or two. There's a bunch of balls in front of it, and you need to hit that ball out, okay, to get a point. But you can't see it. You know who can do that? There's a few guys out there that can volo it, hit it in the air, and hit it out, right? Who can do that? You got guys like Jose. I don't know who else is capable of doing it. Cap says he can do it. Haven't seen it yet, but I believe he probably could. You're not going to make me do that, right? What are we going to do? We're probably going to roll on it, try to bump something, maybe get lucky, right? Jose, if it's his ball, what's he going to do? He's going to volo it in the air. He's going to hit it out, and we're going to score, right? You can't have your 95% of the other players. Actually, you know what's funny? Tony Melorano did that to us. I think it was at Wycliffe. He hit one in the air. It was pretty impressive. But you can't have your other guys doing that shot because it just doesn't work for them, right? So that's a big piece of it. What are you good at, right? What are you good at?
What are you good at? But also,
that's why you call a
who's
game.
Behind you too. I don't know if it was the right call or the wrong call. Maybe it was the wrong call because we lost the game. But I had learned from Pino that he calls it the Pino Bay, that little softy shop against the side wall.
Yeah.
So I basically do my little soft toss, much higher in the air though, and so it hits and it basically sticks around that spot. And I just had used it to my advantage the game before. We got 4 points against Rocco because of that shot, and I refused to use it against you because Cap was back. And the whole reason why I didn't do it was, great, I stick for 2, your ball's in the back. What's Cap going to do with a very short Paulino because Nelly put it against the wall? He's going to shoot an either or, and he's either going to hit Paulino to the back because that's what he's going to be aiming for, or he's going to miss into my ball and potentially stick. And then we're left in a way different situation than against the previous team. So I was trying to think about not only my shot and what I'm good at, but like who's behind me on your side and what they could be able to do.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's times we shoot balls, like if Stewie and Cap have balls back, where you would want to roll in on 3 or 4 foot points, but we know if they shoot, they can stick. We might get an extra point, so we let them shoot the ball. I mean, whatever. It's just what we do. It's the kind of game we call. So
it's also
I think it's important.
It's the player, right? So you want to make the player feel comfortable. I'm a big fan of like letting shooters continue to shoot, so they just feel comfortable. Like let them make a big shot. Yeah. They feel great about themselves. Like let them scream into the air. Let them do whatever. Let a roller make a roll. So they continue to get the line, the speed, the court, whatever. It plays into the next few frames, right? And then there's like these FU shots that I believe in. And so I know you were watching this game because I was watching from the other side. And there was a game, and I know Jen's going to hate that we bring it up, but Fatal 4 didn't shoot a ball in front. They had 3 balls back.
Oh, I'm so mad at them. They had MVR beat. It's another good run by Fatal 4. Very impressive. What did they get, by the way? What place were they in?
I want to say 7th, 8th.
They get like 9-10?
7th,
8th. We got 7th, 8th. 9th. They were 9-10. Good run.
9 through 12.
They had them beat, man. They had them beat. They were rolling great. They had a ball that was 2 feet, like a little bit to the right. I think it was kind of in Ricky's zone. It didn't matter. I told Tiffany, shoot the ball after the frame. Shoot the ball. Roll in. Win the game.
They had
You
both
know?
their hitters. Both their hitters back. Okay, they
Yeah.
had they had their point ball was in front, and the other ball was there. That was in front of it. So like there basically was like a foot between their point ball and their best ball, and you could hide it. Was it
Right.
is it possible that you clip yours? I'm shooting that all day long. If both Ricky, who cares? Go roll in two.
Right.
They couldn't roll in for that second point. They couldn't roll in for that second point after. They had Jen, they had and or Tiff. Go hit the freaking ball, move it out of the way,
Right.
go get your three. There was also something to it. There was not just the points though, but if they would have went up and hit that ball, it just kind of shows the other team like we're willing to do anything to win this game.
To try to win. Yes. Yes.
Like
That's a good point.
there is something
Yep.
about that. It's a way that I try to play against people like you. Is like, you think that I'm not going to try to hit this pill? Just wait. Just wait. And then I'm going to go hit that pill. So I want you thinking about, like,
Right.
I'm going after that pill. If you don't put a ball back there, if you want to say, I'm just going to leave this for Danny, and if he tries to hit the pill, oh well, then I'm going to go show you that I can. And I think that there was an
Right.
opportunity for them too. So that's one that I think, from a game calling perspective, I would have liked to see them, rooting for them in that particular spot just to go for it. I would have liked to see them try to do that. Now, were you rooting for Fatal 4 because you would rather have played them? Or were you rooting for Fatal 4 because you liked them more?
I mean, let's call it what it is. They were probably underdogs in that game. I mean, if they played 10 times, how many times do you think they'd win? I'd say a couple on those courts probably is fair.
Mhm.
I didn't really care who we played, honestly. It didn't matter to me, but I was cheering for good bocce, and the game was great. And the
Yeah.
girls were playing well. Lee was rolling well. Tiff was hitting well. Jen was hitting well. And I love it every time she shoots when she hits the ball before she hits it because she tells you she does. Uh, and then Tess, they all played they all played well and they had them beat. They were playing better than them. Like no question. They got out of that and then of course, our collapse against MVR, we were up, I don't know, 12-5 against them. We lost. We find interesting ways to lose all the time. But yeah, I mean, it didn't really matter to me who we played. Didn't really care.
Yeah.
I always root for good bocce. So yeah, but yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that too because that's a hell of a run by them. How many 90 teams they bested 80 some teams in a basically a men's tournament. Pretty impressive.
Yeah. Fantastic run. And
Yep.
and even with the game calling, it's not that they know what's best for them. I just would have liked to see them go for it. I just think it would have been very interesting to watch them go for it, hit it, get the three, and now all of a sudden, we're just all like, now it's their game. It's their game. They win the game.
Yeah, that's their style of play though, and like I wasn't shocked that they didn't shoot the ball. Okay, I wasn't shocked by it at all. Because that's how they play. They roll when they're in. They're going to lock up their point. They're going to try to make a couple. If they don't, they have the Pauline. They roll it. We don't, and we blow when we do play really well and we blow teams out. It's when we're hitting that ball, we're rolling in for three, right? That's just the nature of it. That's how they play the game. So everybody has their own style. But I would have really liked to see them go for it against a team like that they were playing. I mean, those guys don't play much. Like Darren and those guys don't play a lot. But they play on those courts. That's their home. That's where they play. Go for it, man. Shoot that ball, see what happens, and roll your points in. But yeah, good run for them.
Yep. We were told after, and we had debated it and never did it, but against you, we had Corey do something off the back wall, second to last frame, use an underhand off the back wall, and he goes up and in and beats your ball that's on the left side after I had hit the Paulino. And so Corey beats the ball, and you guys roll short, then you guys roll long, and then Cap finally beats it. And so we have two balls back, and we needed two to win. And so when I talked to people like Pete and Pino after, they said that we should have shot the Pauline in the wall there and went for the shot there to try to squirt the Pauline to the right where I was already sitting there. That was where my ball went after I hit the Pauline,
Right.
so that we had an easy 3 to be able to beat you right there. We had decided to roll. We got the second point from Nelly, and then Del Torrio rolled short, and then we didn't. But what they were saying was, on paper, BSB is the better team than you. Go for the win. And
Right.
for me I was like, on that point, and again, so I'm telling Jen, but I didn't do it in my situation. In this situation, there are always apples to apples, but I was afraid of a great hit and a bad result. We hit that Pauline, it comes back to you in the corner. We only have one ball back, and it's not as easy to go save the frame there.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, you really shouldn't think that way all the time. There's circumstances where obviously you want to shoot and you can't, just based on where the balls are positioned and what could happen. And it all depends on the score of the game and who has a ball back and et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot that plays into like a specific shot. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, when in a circumstance like that, like go for it, like try to shoot it.
Yeah.
That's just what it is.
So I want to talk about others that had great runs at MVR before we finish out that tournament. Want to talk through Dirtbox Cowboys, who played well. They beat IMBS to get to the 7th and 8th spot, then lost to Adelios.
That's Bill Barnett.
Bill Barnett, yep. And
who else was on that team?
Let's see. We didn't get rosters for this tournament, so it's a little bit harder. But Bill Barnett, and we had not Andy Sweeney, because I think he said he finished 92nd on that.
He went 0-2. Good run, Andy. By the way, all that talking he does. He went 0-2. Makes sense. Anyways, continue.
Dirtbox though had a great run, great team. Beat IMBS. Adelios had beaten Mount Carmel. Mount Carmel made a nice run into Saturday, into late Saturday. You guys had obviously taken down 3 men and a K9, a little bit of a revenge match against the team name at least. Beat them to get the 7th and 8th. MVR 3 took down Fatal 4, like we talked about in that great game. A couple teams that didn't get there, we'd already talked about, but didn't get there was MVR 3. Great team, especially on those courts. They made a nice little run. And TC Construction made a great run too. And that was, who's that? Raph was on TC.
It was Raph, Bruno, the older gentleman, their lead roller.
Yep.
John, yes, John Calabrese, right?
Yep.
Bruno and Anthony Mel, fresh off
Anthony
like
Mel Jr.
his back. Yeah, he's played in some more tournaments this year. I got to talk to him a few times about that. He's starting to feel a little bit better. But yeah, that was their team. They beat us. Bruno channeled his 2011 Bruno highlight tape.
Yeah, you can go back there. You can go back there and watch it. I might say like 500 times about how you guys had 2 or 3 balls back and refused to score 2 points against them, and just kept letting them in and in on the game.
That's important.
Yep, you got to get crooked numbers. Another team that did well that I'm very proud of is Pro Quality. The last one that we talk about, my 2 brothers, Nick Cap and Cosby and Murray, who played pretty darn well. They had a nice draw to be able to get there. You know what's funny? They were down 12-1 in their first game. 12-1 in their first game. They rattled off 13 straight points and then just kept winning. And winning and winning and winning. And they had
I think I knew that.
2 extremely tough losses to Lorenzinos, where I believe they scored 10 points but still had a chance to win the game. It was like right until the end. And they lost by 1 point to Adelios, that if Jason Melorino didn't hit the Pauline on the last ball that they had, that they would have been down. They would have lost. And so he hit the Pauline deep in the corner, moved it over to their ball, and they beat them. But
did you see that live, or was that a live streamed game? Like that's a good question here. Was that? See, that's interesting. I would have liked to see that. Was that live streamed, that game?
So if we did live stream that game, it would have been somebody else. I'm going to say no. I was there. I get more nervous watching my brothers play than I do. Like, I'm even fidgety, like, thinking about it. Like, I like the no stress in between. Like I could just like
Right.
have a drink, have cigars, don't have to worry about having too many
Right.
or worrying who's next. But I get so stressed during the games watching them, get so nervous. I want them to win so bad. So like I couldn't live
Yeah.
stream that one, but I definitely was watching it, and man, they had definitely had a chance. They had a chance. It was a good run by them, and I'm very very proud of them to be able to make it to their first Saturday, Sunday, whatever of Armstrong, and then
Right.
they can run there too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Congratulations to all them guys. Yeah, it was a good tournament. Ended up being pretty decent.
So we're heading up. I know this like it's going fast for me. I think I don't know how it's going fast for you. It's like already 55 minutes. Could you believe it?
Yeah. Keep going. We had some questions. So, I mean, there's some things we're going to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
still
have to
want
edit
to. I
that
still want to
part.
finish this out. So what we're gonna do here is, this is more freeform for us. So one of the things that we really like about certain podcasts is that there is no time limit on when it's going to end. So you could kind of pick up, put it back down when you want to. Another thing that we like is being able to speak our own minds, and so we've seen success with other sports for certain podcasts and or live broadcasts where people just go on and speak their own minds. And so,
Right.
getting to that more latter point was, we want to bring up a topic that we feel is a little bit more controversial, especially at the end of our podcast, and kind of dive into it, give our perspectives, and leave the viewers with a chance to be able to chime in. And that could be via
Right.
Facebook messages, post. We'll have more formal ways for you to be able to get a hold of us in the future. But, chime in, tell us what you think about. And so, Matt, this has been a topic that I've talked about a while. So if you know me, and if you've talked to me at the bocce circuit, which, in the last 2 or 3 years, if you've been around, I'm there too. And that's how important is it for you to have to try to win with your friends? I hear a lot about this. It's either I can't believe this person A, B, or C left their team and went to go play with somebody else. They're not even boys with that person or girls with that person. And or hey, all I try to do is try to win with my friends and try to have fun with them. And if I happen to win 5 majors, I do.
This is a pretty loaded question, and how would I answer this? So there's something to be said for playing with your friends / your family and winning. Okay, I mean it's just how it is. There's something to be said for it, and then sticking through them, sticking with them through all the ups and downs. I don't know much about, and I'll get to what I was gonna say in a minute, but I don't know much about Dennis Croce, Dom Aveni, and Mike Verbata. I know that they're close, right? They've got to be friends. They've known each other a really long time. I remember the one podcast that the Bocce Bros had done, and Dennis was on there, and Dennis talked about, how they got their start when they played. They went and won that Chicago tournament, all that stuff, right? It's no secret they haven't been winning much. That doesn't mean they haven't been playing well. I mean, those guys, just to be clear, over the last probably 5 tournaments, they've won probably 50 or 60 games. I mean, they were losing early in tournaments and then rattling off 7, 8, 9 wins in a row, right? They actually might have the most
wins. They might have the most wins.
They probably do. Like, they've won so many games. I remember in Rome, all I kept seeing every time I turned around was Dennis shooting a ball. Dennis must have shot 180 botches at Rome, and I'm not exaggerating. I mean, and those games are long, man. They're long games out there. I mean, they won a lot of games, but they haven't had much success. You don't hear anything at all about, oh, well, they're going to break up, or they're going to do this, or they're going to do that. They've won so much together that they just know each other well. They're going to, and I could be wrong. Maybe next year they decide they don't want to play together anymore. I don't know, but I haven't heard anything like that. And they're the least dramatic team we have on the circuit because they just play together. They know who they are. They know who they're playing with. And when you see ABV, it's those 4, right? Like, it doesn't matter. You see ABV, you know those 4 you're going to have to play, and you're going to have to play well. Jimmy Paisano is a big advocate. At least he tells me he's a big advocate of, like, I'd rather win and play with my friends and my family, right? Like Dan Pisano, family, Mike Pisano, family, Sean New, they've known each other since they were like little kids. They're friends, they're family, right? But what I would say and retort is, sure, Jimmy, like you've shown that that's where you want to be and who you want to play with. But those guys you mentioned are all good, right? They're all elite bocce players. Sean's considered the best pointer we have, right? Or one of the best. You know, I don't know. That's for people to debate. Mike Pisano took an 8-year break, came back. Guy's a player. His first year back, they got fifth in Rome. Like they traveled out there and he played his ass off. They beat ABV. Danny Pisano, another one. Like, dude, that one guy's won how many tournaments in his life? Like, more. Danny's one of the people that a lot of players don't know a lot about because you don't see him at Molisani, you don't see him in Rome, you see him at some of these other tournaments, but like he's not a guy that's able to play all the tournaments. Jimmy gets to play with good players. Like Koppel has a lot of really good players, right? And Jimmy gets to play with them all. If they weren't very good, does Jimmy continue to do it? Right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's the real question.
I would say
that's the real question, right?
So one is like, of course I play with my friends and my best friends and my family, and it's like, yeah, no shit, they're fucking.
Oh, but
all
by the
top
way,
10
I play with the best pointer in the circuit,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, like you know,
it's so tough. I'm sure it's really tough playing with the other
Congratulations,
paisanos, you know, like
right? Yeah, it's
so
like
tough
it's like
playing
okay.
with
And listen, and not to mention, and I'm not gonna. This isn't the podcast that this needs to be discussed. But like Luna Serra, when it was originally before Danny got back, you know, was playing with these guys again. It was Lou, Sean, Jimmy, and Mike. Okay,
yeah.
you can say what you want. If you were to rank shooters from a pure shooting standpoint, Louis top 5. It's top 5. He hits literally 80. He hits 85 to 90%. So like
to me, you have a I'll just call them top 10s, you know, in my world. Top 10 lead pointer. Jimmy P is a top 10 like playmaker at times. Mike
yeah, you just play.
Paisan,
Playmaker's a good word. Yeah,
yeah, playmaker. MHP, who fucking loves that ball in his hand. Like you give him as a third roller, like you're just like asking for danger. Like loves the ball back, loves the moment, loves the last ball. Oh, and then you have Luna Serra.
Right.
Pointing.
It's like it's like dude, like that team. Like what are we talking about, Jimmy? I don't, you know. It's and Jimmy's one of my best friends. Like I'll get his back no matter what. But this is what we're here to do. Like I'm calling a spade a spade. Like yeah, dude, it's easy for you to say I'm going to play with my fam, but like your fam is they're good at bocce, right? They're the best. And when I was coming up playing, I learned the game from those guys. Okay, I played in leagues with those guys. They were the best. I didn't know, you know, and then I started going out and playing in these other tournaments with Stewie. And I still go back and I go back to Koppel. I go, damn, man. I'm like, Koppel really got it. Like they got some dogs. Like they have players. You're talking Stewie's from there, Ron Dog. I mean, there's a lot of players from there. But the point is that like me personally, I wanted to play with Jimmy. I asked those guys to play. Sean always used to tell me, he's like, Matt, he's like, you're just starting out. He was like, you got to start getting yourself out there and playing in these tournaments. You're not going to win. You're going to lose. But you have to get yourself out there. You have to get better. You have to practice. People have to see you play. That's how, and he gave me his whole story about how, you know, the teams he's played with, how he got up. You have to play. So guess what I did? I started practicing every day. I started going to these tournaments, getting my ass kicked. I was able to luckily, you know, fall into Stewie's lap. He's the one that gave me a chance. We started playing some tournaments together. And then 3 years ago, everything clicked. Stewie and I were playing well in two-mans. We were winning some tournaments. And then it just kind of took off from there. But I asked those guys to play, and I wasn't good enough, right? I wasn't good enough. And there's some of my best friends. So, but now, you know, because it's just really me and Stewie, after so long of playing, you know, me and Stewie finally, we had to like literally have a makeshift team every tournament. I mean, we won tournaments with guys like we might have played with one time. It just so happened we were able to connect with Cap and them, and that's where we're at. Like, yeah, you know, I get told that, oh, if I got to play with Capagreco, I'd win too. Well, number one, we've only won 3 or 4 tournaments this year, okay? And most of the ones we won are small, and the other one we won is just me and Stewie. Granted, we've had some big runs, but like just because you're playing with good players doesn't guarantee you wins. And second off, I asked to play with you guys. You don't want to play with me, so now I had to make my own path, and I had to find other people to play with, right? So that's kind of where I've gotten. And
Sure enough.
it'd be interesting.
I don't think anyone's feeling bad for you, by the way, that you're playing.
No,
with
I know no
Stewie
one's feeling bad for me. I get it.
And
Yeah, right.
either
Yeah,
Dante or Triv or Michael
right.
Paisano or insert whoever you guys want to pick up during this next,
That's true. That's
little
true. I
bit
mean,
year and a
I
half.
went through the
No one's
bad
feeling bad for
spots.
you either. I want to say that one, I feel you from a playing standpoint. I think you and I might have a little bit different personalities in some respects, but also I think one of the reasons why I respect you as a player, and I've been getting pointed to you from the beginning was, go out there, go play your butt off, show people what you got, never stop playing, go get your ass beat, and
Hmm.
it's gonna pay off for you. Go look at Taylor. Go look at what he did. And so, like, I've always looked up to you as someone that, like, hey, I've seen maybe somebody that was 1 or 2 years ahead of me that could potentially get there, and then try to hook up myself with, with other consistent players, in the meantime to be able to get there. But, it's tough. It's fucking tough coming up.
Yes, it is.
And then what else I want to say, the second thing was, I also think it's really easy for ABV to stick together when you're winning. And so I would just be interested. I'm not saying I want to see them break up. I don't want to see Jimmy and those guys break up. But when people are winning, it's really easy to stick together. When you're
Sure.
not winning, it becomes more difficult. You start thinking
Well,
about,
so
like,
where's the
what
line?
is it?
Where's the line at? Where's the line at? ABV's won. If you want to consider these major tournaments, How many major tournaments has ABV won? They won Molisani, what, 3 times? Wycliffe
Yeah,
twice.
Wycliffe twice. Yep.
They won a 10K tournament in Chicago. I've never been there. I don't know anything about that. That was one of their first big ones, right? But they won Wycliffe, we consider the best tournament that we play in, the most whatever. And they
Listen,
won Molisani 3 or 4 times.
They won a bunch of big tournaments. They've won a bunch
Right.
of
They won a bunch
tournaments.
of big tournaments, right?
Yeah.
How can you go back and say, oh, well, this isn't working anymore? So it's funny. You have conversations, and I've the only thing that I can say.
You want to know why it's not working? You want to know why they're
What's
not
that?
winning this year? It's
Why?
because it's fucking hard to win. It's
I
because
was
it's so
just gonna say that.
fucking
Yeah.
deep. You
Yeah.
know what you're doing? You know what you're doing? You're playing against Vivo. Oh, Vivo plays 7 times a week. You're playing against
Right.
me. Oh, I want to rip your throat out when I play against you. You're playing against, like, all these players, these now quote unquote average teams, the ones that are winning 60% of the time. There's a bunch of us that win 60 to 70% of the time. We don't go 2 and out. We are close to making Sundays, or we make Sundays. Like, we're a pain in your ass. We're a pain in
Yeah.
your ass. And either A, you beat us, but we're going to make it freaking hard on you and make you stay up later than you wanted to that Saturday night.
Mhm.
Or B, we upset you and put you in the losers bracket, and now you got to win 18 games.
You know
It's
what's funny
fucking
about
hard
that
to
is
win.
so MVR. I hate to go back to MVR again, but ABV, I did make my prediction. They'd lose their second game, but I did predict they'd make it back to the championship. That didn't work. We ended up playing them, but their second game they played dudes from Koppel. They played Dan Flara. Dan Flara plays 3 tournaments a year, 3, and they beat them because Dan's a good player, but people don't realize that he's a good player. He can play. Murph's
I
another
know.
guy. He plays a handful of tournaments, but like he's a good player. There's a lot of good players on that team, and they like Spiff, Tito. Those guys are new. They've only been playing a couple years, but they're not bad players. You can lose to them, and they did. It's tough.
They beat their socks off. They beat them bad.
Yeah.
They lose their next game. We played them, make it into Saturday, and we beat them. And next thing, like, they beat ABV in a major tournament, and yet they didn't even get to make it to the next day.
Well,
It's fucking hard, man. It's just like a bunch of good teams.
Yes, it is. It is.
It's really, really deep. It's really, really hard to win, and that's why, like Lorenzino's, like Gianni, Matt, Bobby, Dante, they have multiple wins this year.
Yeah.
Freaking hard, man.
It is hard, and it's kind of why. And I hate to go back to Eric again and the credit that he's done, but this BU Cup, when you look at it, it wasn't run like obviously like the whole circuit, even Eric or Rocco wanted it to run. But when you're looking at it from a totality perspective, you gain points based on your finishes in every tournament in those events, and a lot of those events were tied into some of the big events. We were definitely the most consistent team. Obviously, we have 40 some points, 45 points. You don't get that by not doing well day in and day out, tournament in, tournament out to earn those points. Now, granted, we played, I think, every BU event, if I'm not mistaken, for obvious reasons, because the prize pool was so high, it's worth the money, right? So we made sure, like, we went to Lockport. We weren't going to go, but then because they made Lockport a tournament, we decided to go to it. So I did like that aspect of that. I hope that that's something that, we can do again and kind of tweak it and make it better. But yeah, it says something for the consistency there. So I kind of like that.
So it's interesting because, like, if you didn't have something like that, I would wonder if you would even view this season as even as much of a success, because we got to see you as a team through the standings be, always on the top there. Because in that league, unlike what you would view as a success, because for you it's pretty binary right now. So binary meaning you win a tournament or you didn't win a tournament.
Right.
So there is no good run for you. But in the BU Cup, good runs matter.
Right.
Good runs made you some money. Good
Well,
runs.
it mattered too when we played Pete and Frank and those guys, Molisani 4 at MVR. Because if we lost to them, then they were going to climb up the rankings. If they would have won that tournament, we would have been in a dogfight for the regular season. So that game mattered to us more than people realized. We needed to make sure we won that game to kind of lock that up. And it brings a nice extra wrinkle to the bocce scene, right?
No,
and
I don't know, because you were allowed to switch players and stuff. Was that the same?
Well, that's why I said there's
some
tweaks that need to be made for sure.
Was that the same team for Wycliffe? Was that considered that Wycliffe team?
The Molisani team?
Yeah.
Minus, I don't think Tim Trapeppi played with them. Tim Trapeppi played with them in Wycliffe.
Yeah, but that was their quote unquote BU team for Wycliffe.
It was their BU team. Yes, it was their BU team.
So when Tim hit the pill, over to you guys, that
was another huge yes. That mattered more than people realized, because that garnered us more points. We were able to jump in the standings and then just kind of lock it up. And we knew we had to do this. So now right.
Shot.
Yes,
right?
It kind of was. It kind of was. We go into BU event number 10, which is in a couple weeks before the BU championship. It doesn't matter what we do in that tournament. Now we locked up the regular season and the 1 seed. So that was cool. But yeah, I mean, it throws in an extra wrinkle that I kind of enjoyed and kind of liked. Obviously it's flawed and there needs to be some tweaks to it and fixes, but the idea that Eric came up with is a pretty good idea. I see where he was going with this. You want to applaud teams. If you want to make this game bigger, you want to kind of see these teams. There's not many of them. There's BSB, Watertight. You know what you're getting from Watertight. It's basically the same group of guys. ABV, Molisani kind of stuck together in most of the BU, most if not all the BU events. Palazzo has their team, but they don't travel as much. So like it's gaining some traction. It's just how do you grow it,
Yep. And I think that's what, one thing that I want to think about for next year, with a few other people, is trying to figure out how to be able to do that and how we can be able to grow that. Because I do think that teams can be important, but I also see a lot of challenges to that. But I do love respecting the champions, because like winning's freaking hard. And if you could be able to win, I think that matters. So I want to just take for last topic. I want to move on to the future. I want to move on to like what's coming up next. So from a the best place to always go is the Bocce Bros. So I'll be looking on their website. But we got Butch's tournament, which is coming up. We got another tournament coming up October 6th that I will not be playing. We got Molisani coming up, and then we have, of course, the mini high stakes coming up at Lorenzino's. So let's see what you're excited about to play, and what are you looking forward to in the next month?
I'm looking forward to not playing bocce for the next 2 weeks is what I'm looking forward to. I'll probably do a lot of practicing on my own, but I'm done. Yeah, I'm not playing for the next 2 weeks, and it's funny because I was on the phone with Stewie this afternoon. He was trying to get me to play in that Butch's tournament. I'm like, I'm out, dude. Nope, I'm not doing it. Crickets is the following week. I already told a bunch of people I'm out. I'm not playing that. Cap and Stewie are playing. I forget who they're playing with. I'm not playing that as well. I have something else going on that weekend anyways, and it's my wife's birthday. Um, so I'm looking forward to taking that, but I'm really excited to go to Molisani. And then that 2 week stretch, Molisani, and then Lorenzino's, and then the BU championship. Like that's a huge tournament. People don't realize there's $11,000 up for grabs. Actually, more than that. But first place is like 11K.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure Jose and all them dudes are coming out there for that. We
Oh,
really
you
want to
think?
show out.
Oh, you
What's
think?
that?
You think he'll show up
Yeah,
for the money?
yeah. I think they'll show up. I had to. Dante's not going to be playing in that event, unfortunately, but we were able to find a good replacement for him, luckily, because we need the firepower. So
Great. Who's
I'm
going to be
hoping it
is
works.
same person that's going to be playing Lorenzino's, then Molisani?
It's going to be the same person. Yes.
Do you want to say who it is,
Yes.
or do you want me to just tell everybody?
I think I'm going to hold that off for now. I'm going to hold that off for now.
I'll respect it. I won't tell everybody.
But no, it is not Triv. Triv.
I know that.
It's not Triv. It's
Yeah.
not Triv. It's not Triv.
You think you have secrets? So your secrets leak pretty easily. You have Stewie on your team. He's pretty.
Yeah, I
he's
know.
pretty-
Stewie, listen, Stewie's a great boshy player. He's an awesome pool player. He's an idiot. Okay.
Yep.
Stewie's yeah, I mean, what can I say about the kid? I mean, I love him to death. He's not the brightest bulb in the shed. Okay.
So
So
so you don't care who you play against, but you want to keep your team secret against somebody else, right? Is that what you're saying?
no, I mean it's me, Anthony, and Stewie. Our fourth has not been announced yet for that weekend. For that weekend.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. For me, I got this tournament in Columbus that's coming up in a couple weeks. That I'm pretty
Okay.
excited about. So I am playing the Butchers tournament with Spiff Tito and Diane, and then I got a week break. I'm going with my friends to Talladega to go do that, which will be fun. A bunch of my high school friends, and then
Oh, nice.
I'm doing the Columbus tournament. I'm actually gonna be playing with all three of my brothers for the first time. So there'll be four Catullos on the court. It's gonna be
Wow.
very much. And my brother from Columbus, you've never met him, but he's louder than me, much louder than me. And so it's gonna be interesting to have us four on the court. We'll see if we can have a good tournament there and make a good run. And then
Yeah.
we have Molsani coming up, and we're playing with Vito from Chicago. So one of
Do I
the
know?
sides
Do I know who that is?
yeah, you would know him to see him. Vito's a pretty tough player. We had a great game against Jose in the first game against Molisani last year. Made a nice little run after we had lost that one late, close. And love Vito, love playing with him. So I'll be shooting first in that game. And then for the Lorenzino's High Stakes, which I'm not playing the BU tour, as you know, but I'll keep my secret roster as well for the Lorenzino High Stakes. We'll tell
I
you
wouldn't
who I'm
say so
playing with.
much as a secret roster. You know who you're playing. You're playing against me, Cap, and Stewie.
Yeah. Well, you're
But
playing against
had
me. You're playing against me, and
we
what people would say is 3 Brazilians. You don't know. It might be 3 Brazilians.
we had to read. I wouldn't say we because I'm basically the one that makes the decisions. I get their inputs, but basically I'm the one that runs the squad, and I had to go. I had to go at great lengths to get a guy for that weekend. After after Dante decided he didn't want to play anymore, he's taking a break. God bless him and his wife, by the way. Hope everything continues to get better for Ashley. But yeah, he's done playing, so I had to go to extremes to get this. But I find it funny because I've heard from so many different people that I've never spoken to about how they are in the runnings to play with us. I don't really like that kind of talk. I don't like that. I just want to play. But it's interesting to listen to some of the people that feel like they're going to play with us because they know that Dante's gone. And I don't have conversations. I've talked to two people about possibly playing with us long term. and one of them, one was Triv. I'm sure a lot of people know that already. One is Triv, who will be playing in a lot of tournaments with us next year. And then Ronnie Cap was another one who we're going to play a couple tournaments with, more towards the end of the year. So the JAC and the and MVR, we're playing with him in. And then we got a couple. We had to get somebody else for Wycliffe and for Molisani this year. And it's not Trevor Ronnie. So we went far.
They're still pretty two tough players.
Yes.
No, I would say this, that I respect the GMing skills, which is another. There's game calling during the game, but GMing is really difficult. One thing, we're going to get into a much larger conversation about this, but it really just annoys me when people are like, nobody asked me to play. Nobody asked me to play. You know why? Because nobody asked anybody to play. They say, are you playing Molisani? And they're just fishing to see if you're available. And then they want to see if you are okay playing with you at this level talent, and you have to kind of let them know who else that you're thinking about on the team. GMing's freaking hard too. It's hard putting together a four. It is. So one of the things that these players that play with the same team every week have, as you know, is a lot freaking easier than having to always go find the right player, the right circumstance, the right court. They don't have their mother's anniversary to their ex-father-in-law, whatever. Like, stupid. You have to go find those right players.
Well, let me tell you something too, and I know I kind of want to end with this a little bit. That this would be a nice little kicker, because I know we've already gone a long time, but hopefully people listen and watch this. We're talking about the formation of teams and people asking to play, and listen, people are asking people to play. I know people have teams set up for next year and have these discussions after the tournament this year was over, right? Like people like to say like, "Oh, I just do this for the camaraderie and the fun."
MVR's
Bullshit, dude.
MVR's a transition season. Oh,
yes, listen, you don't. Listen. People want to win, dude. People want to win. They're traveling. They don't want to go and lose. If you don't think that you care about who you're playing with and who you're asking to be on your team, you're just lying. If you're there to say, "Oh, I'm just here to have a good time, play a little bocce, drink my Modelo's," you're full of shit. Okay, completely full of shit. There might be some that really believe that.
I think you can do that. You're just not going to win many games.
Yes, but to say that a lot of the guys that say that are doing it just because of that, they're lying. Okay, they're behind the scenes trying to get the best players they can, and people are getting screwed over here and screwed over there and left for dead here and left for dead over here. I don't want any part of that. I want to have one team. That's it. I kind of envy IMBS and envy ABV in that sense, where like they don't have to do that. They just know who they're playing with. They schedule their time to leave and go to these tournaments, and they play. Right, win or lose. That's their team.
I guess that's been your case though this year. You've had
Dante.
Thankfully it has.
Thankfully it has.
And you didn't make the decision to have Dante off your team. Dante decided to, do his little semi-retirement. Like you said, please get well, Ashley. And we totally respect and encourage him to help support that. But, you're going to have the same thing again next year. And that's all well and good. But for those teams that are in the middle, those teams that are in the upper end, upper middle, they're looking for the right four.
They're jockeying for position. They're jockeying for position. Yes, that is correct. Yep.
But no matter what, you always have to respect the line, Taylor. You got to respect the line.
Yes.
And not cross it.
Yeah.
All right, ladies, gentlemen, we appreciate you. It's been a long one. What we want to say is that we really appreciate you listening to us. We feel like we both have something to say. And that it matters to us that we have such an amazing, eclectic group of people that care about the same game that we love. And we're very lucky to be able to bring this to you. And hopefully we can do this very often.
Yeah, I think we're going to. I think our goal, people, is to try to do this once a week. I think next week we'd like to have a guest on to kind of kick this off. I mean, this is our kind of our, just trying it out, see what happens type of thing. But I think we can really do something with this. We'd like to get people, hopping in. We definitely want to have a guest. Danny and I will talk about that, and we will post that, who our guest is going to be and when our podcast will be, so you guys can make sure you see it and you watch it. So hopefully we get this going. We do it consistently.
Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you later.
Later.